I drove for hours through a snowstorm to surprise my family on Thanksgiving, but my sister humiliated me at the door and sent me back. I didn't say a single word because they had no idea that I had been holding their lives together for years. The next morning when everything changed, they started calling me back. After driving for nearly 5 hours through a snowstorm, I finally arrived at my parents' house with a Thanksgiving pie in my hands and only one thought in my mind. My family would be happy to see me. But the moment my sister opened the door, she looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have come here." I didn't say a single word back because they had no idea that for years, I had been quietly holding their lives together. My name is Emma Carter. I'm 38 years old and I live in a small town in Ohio. I work as an operations manager at a healthcare company. My life has always been simple. I never asked for much. Expensive gifts, luxury cars, or constant attention were never things that mattered to me. I only wanted my family to remember me. Every Thanksgiving we gathered at my parents' house. It was our family tradition. My mother Linda would cook the turkey. My father Michael would sit near the fireplace and tell old stories. And my sister Rachel would always arrive late because she always had some excuse. This year I decided I would surprise them. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I took time off work 2 days earlier, prepared my car and bought a special pumpkin pie that my father loved. But the day I left, the weather changed. Snow started falling. Weather alerts kept appearing on my phone. Again and again warnings told people to avoid unnecessary travel. I could have turned back. But I thought, I've already come this far. So I kept driving. The roads were empty. Snow covered the trees. Small pieces of ice kept hitting my windshield. I drove for almost 5 hours. During the entire trip I only stopped once for coffee and it was already cold 30 minutes later. But I didn't care. I was going to see my family. When I finally reached my parents' house, it was already evening. Warm lights were glowing through the windows. I could hear laughter coming from inside. I smiled. I thought, they'll be happy. I knocked on the door. A few seconds later it opened. Rachel was standing there. She was holding a wine glass. She froze when she saw me. "Emma." I smiled. Surprise. She looked at me. Then she looked at my car parked behind me. Then she looked back at me. "Why are you here?" I thought maybe she was joking. I lifted the pie. "For Thanksgiving. I thought everyone would be happy." Her expression changed. "Emma, you shouldn't have come." I stayed quiet for a moment. "What do you mean?" She lowered her voice. "Today is a little complicated." I looked inside. My parents were there. My nephews were watching TV. But nobody had even looked toward the door. I said, "Tell Mom I'm here." Rachel shook her head. "No, Emma. It's better if you go back." I stared at her. "You're sending me away after I drove 5 hours through a snowstorm?" She looked away. "I didn't ask you to come." That sentence was short. But it was enough. I lowered the pie. From inside the house my mother's voice called out. "Who is it?" Rachel answered. "It's Emma." A few seconds passed. Then my mother said, "Oh." That was it. Just, "Oh." No excitement. No surprise. No, "Come inside." I watched the door slowly close. I didn't say anything. I got back into my car. And I left. That night I didn't call anyone. Not my parents. Not Rachel. I just focused on getting home. The snow became heavier. But strangely the road seemed clearer than before. Because for the first time I understood what I had been holding on to. A family that only remembered me when they needed something. I had always been that person. I helped. I showed up. I solved problems. But nobody ever asked how I was doing. Rachel was always different. She was the favorite. When she went to college my parents paid her tuition. When I went to college I took out loans. When Rachel bought her first house my father helped her with the down payment. When I bought my house I was told, "You can handle it yourself." And I did. When Rachel struggled with her children my mother immediately showed up. When I was sick I was told, "You're strong." That word became the biggest burden of my life. Strong. Because people rarely ask strong people if they are tired. The next morning I checked my phone. There were 4 missed calls. 2 from my mother. 2 from my father. Then I saw a message from Rachel. "If you're upset I understand but you made the situation worse." I read the message. Then I turned my phone off. I didn't reply. That same day I made a decision. I was done being the daughter who only existed to help. I started changing my life. First, I stopped doing all the things I had always done for my family. I stopped sending money every month for Rachel's children. I stopped helping with my parents' bills. I started using my time for my own life. A few weeks passed. Then one day my father called. "Emma, are you angry with us?" I said, "No." He became quiet. "Then why did you stop everything?" I answered, "Because I realized I wasn't really part of the family. I was just a convenience." He immediately said, "That's not true." I asked, "Then why was the door closed for me on Thanksgiving?" He had no answer. A few days later I discovered the real truth. And that was the thing that changed everything. My parents were struggling. But the reason wasn't what they had told me. Rachel had been putting financial pressure on them for years. Her husband kept changing jobs. Their debts continued growing. And my parents were using their savings to support them. But before asking me for help, they never stopped to think about what they had done to me. Then I found out something else. My parents had decided to sell their house. And they expected me to step in and fix everything again. They believed I would always come back. But this time I wouldn't. I decided I needed to talk to them. I went to their house. My father opened the door. He looked surprised. "Emma," I said, "we need to talk." He quietly stepped aside. Inside it was the same house. The same place I had visited for years. But it no longer felt like my home. My mother walked out. Her eyes were filled with tears. "We hurt you." I didn't say anything. My father slowly said, "We thought you would always be strong." I looked at him. "I was strong. But you used that against me." Nobody answered. I told them I couldn't help them financially anymore. Not out of anger. Not as revenge. Just as reality. They looked shocked. Because for the first time I said, no. A few months later my parents started handling their own lives. Rachel also had to accept responsibility for her choices. One day she called me. "Emma, I don't understand how you tolerated everything for so long." I answered, "Because I thought you were my family." She became quiet. Today our relationship is not the same. Maybe it never will be. But now I sleep peacefully at night. I know I didn't punish anyone. I simply stopped allowing myself to be ignored. And that night when I drove for hours through a snowstorm just to make my family happy, was the night I finally chose myself. If this story touched your heart and made you think about family, sacrifice, and knowing your worth, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing for more emotional stories. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Your support means a lot to us and we truly appreciate you being part of our community.